Stories. Betty Yee has dropped out of the race. I know you're all very sad about that. You're probably wondering who is Betty Yee, and she had some things to say on the way out the door. We have more discussion about what's going on with the California gubernatorial race, including who is in the lead, who might be the favorite. We're also going to discuss LA has an $834 million budget for homelessness, but also has cut the outreach program in half. And Gavin Newsom has a bestseller with a caveat that he sold all the books to himself and his own PAC. We're going to get into that and more on tonight's episode of the California Underground, starting right now. What's going on, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the California Underground. I am your host, Phil. We have a ton to get to tonight, so let me first bring in my trusty co-host, the best and fastest researcher in the West, Camille. What is going on, Camille? How are you doing tonight?
I'm shivering and I'm yawning and I'm laughing at the same time.
That is a whole bunch of things. That might be a
It's
psychotic
cold and
breakdown.
I'm tired and I'm cracking up at Newsom being a best-selling author.
By buying his own book. You were saying before, I think we made a comment about this on a previous episode. We probably did make a comment about what happened, like that he was just going to buy his own book and sell it.
We literally made a joke about when he actually announces that he's running for president, because he hasn't done that yet officially. That he'll probably have all these unsold copies of his book and he'll say, donate any amount to my presidential run and I'll send you my book.
And here he literally did what we expected him to do. It's almost like sometimes if you tune in long enough to this show, we'll actually end up telling you what's going to happen. And it does happen because we've been following this enough that, we see a pattern.
Yeah.
So before we get into it, thank you everyone for tuning in live wherever you are tuning in from. Make sure you let us know in the chat. We love a lively and active chat. We got a lot of stuff to cover tonight, a lot of ground to cover. As I'm saying that, I'm actually putting something in the chat right now. And a little teaser at the end of the show, big news that we're going to drop coming up about California Underground and a project that we're going to drop. And that's the teaser. So you got to stick till the end of the show. All right, let's get into the first story. What is Betty Yee? I know you're very upset. We knew she was the underdog.
She knew she was the underdog.
She knew she was the underdog. She dropped out as of yesterday. Someone had commented, I would have never known who the heck Betty Yee was if I didn't listen to your show. So just an example of how we actually educate people. A little pass. People didn't even know who Betty Yee was. But she was she's outside Swalwell, who was forced to drop out and suspend his campaign for reasons we covered in detail last week. Betty Yee had to drop out because she was polling at a whopping, I think, 1%. But we're going to get into this article.
That's actually better than some others have done. Some didn't even make it past the 0% mark. No, but I just want to say real quick, that is why we do the show. Genuinely, like, we want to talk to you guys about the things that you may not know are going on. And while the fact that Betty Yee was in the race and dropped out, like that, anyone who knows that now, you're going to forget about that in a week and it's never going to be important again. However, some of these little things do become important that we talk about, and then they might become bigger stories or they are relevant somewhere down the road. And so that's why we like to talk about all these things that maybe you wouldn't hear about, you don't think you would care about. And then they come back up and we're like, hey, remember?
Hey, remember this thing we talked about like 4 months ago? And it came to fruition. So it's not like we have big premonitions. We've followed this long enough that we have an idea of like what's going to happen. So let me pull up this article from Cal Matters going into the story about Betty Yee dropping out. And you're probably all wondering, why the heck do we care so much about Betty Yee and why she's dropping out? Because I think it's sort of indicative of what's happening right now in the race. And we'll get to that in a second. So lagging in polls and fundraising, Betty Yee drops out of California's governor's race. Former state controller Betty Yee dropped out of the governor's race on Monday, saying she couldn't see a path to get donors and additional support from undecided voters with 6 weeks left before the primary. Quote, it was becoming clear that the donors were just not going to be there, she said. Even some of my former supporters just felt like they needed to move on as well. End of quote. Uh, she did not immediately endorse another candidate, but we have news that she did end up endorsing another candidate. In recent days, she had begun styling herself as, quote, boring Betty, promising a
Oh,
it's kind of it's almost like she's trying to do something to
I
differentiate
know, I
herself.
almost think I like her. Like, not that I agree with her policies, but I
Mhm.
think she might be genuine. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. I'm almost scared to say that. But I feel like she maybe is genuine, and this dropping out kinda shows that because she was just like, "This is it's not in the cards for me.
Not
I
going
need
anywhere.
I need to step aside."
It goes on to say, but pragmatism never translated into star power. Yee had stayed at or near the bottom of the polls, never garnering more than 3% of likely voters and lagged in fundraising. Although she had that good showing at the Democratic convention
Yeah.
where she was like top one, like three or something.
Right,
She didn't get
right.
the
They didn't
endorsement, but she got
endorse, but she did show up, yeah, like you said, in the top 3, and we were both, "What?" Because we had kinda made fun of her when we were, showing one of the debates, so we were like, "Betty who?" And
Mhm.
then all of a sudden at the DNC, she came in the top 3. They did not endorse, just like the GOP did not endorse. They didn't endorse, but we were like, "Whoa, she she got
She did
somewhere." Like
better.
that, I
Yeah,
mean,
she had a very good
I
showing. Goes on to say in tearful news conference on Monday, Yee expressed frustration about Hick's public pressure effort, which involved releasing periodic polls to prompt candidates to, quote, assess the viability of their campaigns, that Yee said became self fulfilling. She said voters didn't appear interested in her, quote, experience and competence, end quote, instead flocking toward candidates who made splashier statements about fighting the Trump administration.
interesting.
Hmm. I wonder, yeah, Betty, I think we agree with you on that. There are several candidates who I just got my primary election guide book in the mail today. I was reading through it, and some of them are just so laughable because you're like, are you running for president against Donald Trump? Because all of their bios are like, I'm going to fight Trump and I'm going to take it to the Trump administration. I'm going to. It's like, okay, cool. What are you going to do for us as Californians? I guess
Mhm.
you're just going to fight Trump.
Just
She
like
goes on
Trump.
to say, people want a personality. You have to either be the loudest, you have to have gimmicks, you got to do what you got to do to get attention. I got no gimmicks. In his own news press conference about the poll, this is about Hicks, who's the head of the Democratic Party. Thank ye, but said there are still, quote, too many Democrats in the field, end quote.
Mm.
So I have a question for you, Camille, to start this off.
Oh boy.
Um, she raises a good point, and I was thinking about this when I was reading this article today. They said she was likely the most qualified candidate out of the whole race. I mean, that's
It's
I guess you could say that's
questionable.
debatable. She was a statewide officer, so she
Yeah.
does have that.
Mhm.
You could argue like Xavier Becerra is probably, if you're looking at that, more qualified. He was Attorney General, then he was Secretary of Health and Human Services. So those
Mhm.
are two really big positions. So maybe he's more qualified.
Katie Porter was Congress.
Katie Porter was just a congresswoman for Orange County, and Swalwell was a congressman. So a lot of people really, well, Tony Thurmond held statewide office.
Yeah, actually, they're again, it's questionable. I mean,
Questionable.
debatable about what you believe is qualified, and yeah.
But the question I have for you, and I think Betty brings up a good point, that qualified people don't win elections in America, let alone California. They don't win elections in America. So my question to you is, do you agree with Betty Yee that qualified experienced candidates who might actually do a good job don't win because they get pushed out for politicians who are louder and have the gimmicks? Is that where
Yes.
our political Okay, well, there we
S
go. All right, moving on.
Short answer, yes.
Mhm.
Prime example, Barack Obama.
Yeah. Yeah, Barack Obama is a good example. He was a rock star, very good public speaker, very
Mhm.
charismatic.
Yes.
Um,
People loved him.
wholly unqual
Yeah, I mean, really, he was a state senator, right? For
He was a state
yeah,
senator, and then he was a junior senator for, like, a hot minute, and then he became
right,
president. So,
and
in
they became
terms of
president.
qualifications, I don't
I
think
mean,
he
it's
really.
Trump, Trump I guess, second example, President Trump.
Yeah. I'm sure people will argue and say, "Well, he ran a, multi-billion dollar organization." Doesn't mean you were
Right.
ready to be president, but, I I I think in generality, her statement is correct.
Yes.
Sadly, and sometimes we see it here on the show, we'll have good guests on who are very competent, very qualified, very well spoken, maybe a little softer, a little quieter. We find them really interesting because they have great ideas, and then they don't really go on and do anything because
Mhm,
people either get bored or they're like, this person's boring. I don't want to pay attention to them.
mhm.
Not saying anything about our listeners. There is something to, as a politician, unfortunately, in our society and as our system is set up, you have to have a shtick. You have to have something that gets people to want to come you have to energize your voters. You have to get people excited to come out and vote for you or show up or donate money. Like, it's a whole ordeal to do so.
Yes,
And I think she's right. It's not a good excuse for why she lost. I think maybe, or why she just had to drop out. I think probably she wasn't that enticing of a candidate for governor, but I think she has a point.
she does have a point, yeah. And I think I'm guilty of that way as a voter as well,
Mm,
where you want like someone's like you said, they could be stating their policies and we're like, "Oh, that's a really interesting point." But sometimes they're just so boring that you kind of tune out. You're not feeling inspired. You're not like this person's not gonna they're not gonna raise anything. They're not, you want someone motivating, and especially these days, the younger people, Generation
mhm,
Z, or I guess we say Gen Z, sorry, and that was very old millennial of me to say generation. Um, they're not inspired, they're not motivated by some of these older, more slower to speak, kinda less words, like, they want people seem to want that motivational speaker and that
mm,
inspiration, and, you and I love a good debate, and we've seen some candidates who we really liked, who were even qualified for certain positions, but then when it came to a debate, they were just not good at debate, and it does you do lose interest in those kind
yeah,
of candidates, unfortunately. Even though being, good at debating or not is really not a qualification for political office, but when you get up there and you see them get smeared and you're like, "Ugh," like, and especially some of these people we've actually gotten to know in person, and we're like, "No, but we know these people are really good and they're a great person and they have great ideas," but then they get on that stage and you're just like, "I don't know
mm,
them," It's just like so
yeah.
yeah.
Um, I agree. I think the gimmicks and the shtick and being loud gets attention. It
Mhm,
does. I mean, it does get attention. The second point that she made is also very true, which we agree with, is that there's a lot of people who made a lot of noise about fighting Trump.
mhm.
Like, they made their whole thing fighting Trump. And if anybody has their primary election guide that got mailed to them, everyone gets one. I want you to open it up and look at pretty much all of the Democratic statements, at least for the front runners, the Democrat. There's a bunch of Democrats in there I've never heard of. One guy named Jesus Loves God or something. That's his legal name. Not kidding. You can go look that up. Um, and
Okay.
most of the front runners, their statements all revolve around Trump, which is crazy. Like Katie Porter's, two-thirds of it is, I'm going to fight Trump. And I fought Trump when I was in Congress. And I'm going to fight Trump on this issue. Fiona Ma, her whole thing about Lieutenant General, I'm going to fight Trump on birthright citizenship. I'm going to fight ICE. I'm going to fight Trump here and there. Um, and that doesn't really, I don't know. We've talked about it a couple weeks ago how I don't know if that's really resonating with Californians. The whole I'm just going to fight Trump, because when you're looking at $7 a gallon gas and the cost of everything keeps going up and up and up, and your electric bill jumped from, I don't know, $200 to $500 in a month, Like, people don't really care about how much you're going to fight Trump. They care about what's actually going to move the needle and make things better here in California. So I think she's right on that point too. And it's a sad state of affairs where someone who is qualified and probably has good ideas. I'm not saying I agreed with Betty Yee on everything. I think she was for like single payer healthcare and a lot of really far left programs, which I would have never supported in a million years. Um, but I think she kind of hit the nail on the head that it's the qualified people with real solutions often get pushed out if they don't have a gimmick and they're not the loudest. And in this case, Betty Yee was a casualty of that. She was the first to be pushed out. I don't know if she was pushed out. I think the math just wasn't going to work. And I don't know where her 1.4% of support's going to go. It's not going to make a huge difference of like where that support goes. You're still looking at people who are just pulling in double digits for Democrats: Katie Porter, Xavier Becerra, Matt Mahan. I think cracked 11%. So
Mm.
there's another one I'm missing right now. Well, we're gonna
Star.
get into it.
Did you say his name?
Steyer. Yes, Steyer. He's the big one. He's the big one who seems to be benefiting the most from Eric Swalwell's departure. All of a sudden, he like shot up. But then we also have news of someone else shot up in the polls. So uh, I want to get to this story.
I
Any more
wanna say
comments?
something.
You want to say
I
something
wanna say
about?
I wanna say 2 things real quick. One, regarding Betty Yee, the way that the fact that she did drop out and what she said does make me feel like she wasn't running on her ego. Like, I think last week we
Mm,
talked about, or no, it was a couple weeks ago with the roundtable, and we talked about a lot of them won't drop out just because, simply because their ego. Like, they truly seem to believe that they are, God's gift to California, and that they're the only qualified one to run, and they're not gonna drop out because it's their race and all that. So this tells me um, that she was genuinely, like, she cared. She wanted to run. She wanted to do something. Again, whether or not we agree with her policies, um,
mhm,
but she did kind of say, "This isn't going to work for me. It's time to back off and let somebody else." But I think I disagree with you about people don't care about Trump, because we still have these No
mhm,
King's Day protests in California. I'm going to say in California, there are plenty of Californians that are still very angry at Trump, and they do get inspired by the people that are saying, "I'm going to fight Trump." And I have a friend who, lifelong Republican, Christian, like conservative Republican, who is very disappointed in the Republican Party the last several years. And I wouldn't say she's a Democrat, but I think she's kind of feeling lost politically. And that the little reel that you posted on Instagram was a clip from last week when I was talking about the possible what could happen if we were to send two Republicans to the general and the down
mhm.
ballot voting. And so you had posted that little clip as a reel on Instagram, and then I shared it to my stories. And she responded, "No, no red wave." Again, she has all her life been a Christian conservative voter, registered Republican. And I know that she's just pretty upset at a lot of things with Trump, and just the Republican Party in general. And I don't know how she's going to vote, but I know that she appreciates, like, she's never liked Newsom, but then when he was fighting with the whole Prop 50 thing, like, she agreed with him on that. And I'm not trying to,
Mhm.
like, this isn't me calling her out by any means of, I'm just saying, talking to people, and again, this is former Republican or even current Republican, they are kinda, like, wanting someone to fight Trump when they, because they really are so upset with the way that Trump has been going, that they're like, "Someone needs to stand up to him."
Mm.
So, I it when you take the far left in California, they are angry at Trump, and I think that they do actually relate to that. Like, yes, you're going to fight Trump. Yes, I'm in.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. There's plenty of people in California. That's no shock that there's plenty of people in California who hate Trump no matter what. Um, I was just thinking of the comment you made a couple weeks ago at our roundtable about how sometimes well, Katie Porter made her whole campaign about Trump.
Oh, right. I did say that.
Um,
Way to
so
call me, turn it back on me.
I mean, I was just using your words to say, and but I think there is going to be a conglomerate of people. There's going to be a large amount of people who hate Trump, no matter what, and whoever yells
Right.
the loudest about fighting Trump, they don't care about $7 a gallon gasoline. They ride their bicycle to work or whatever. Um, But I think making your whole campaign about Trump hasn't necessarily panned out because that would mean like Katie Porter and Tom Steyer should be running away with this because their whole campaign is basically we hate Trump and we're going to do everything we
Yeah,
can to
that's true.
stop him. So it's interesting. There is a good amount of people who hate Trump, but I think there's a good amount of people who are also like, Yeah, that's nice and everything, but we also want to know what you're going to do to help Californians."
You just gave me an
Um,
idea that I have to write down, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. I'll bring up
No, I have
this.
to write it down. You keep talking, I'm gonna write this that's just sorry, that's what I'm doing. I'm just writing this down so I don't forget.
All right. So this is one of the polls that came out recently. Independent voter news that breaking Xavier Becerra bolts into first place in IVN California governor poll. I've never heard of independent voter news. Take that from what you will. They're not one of the established ones like Emerson or Gallup or Rasmussen or USC or usually any of the polls that are people kind of refer to. So this came out as of yesterday, April 20th. Becerra leads IVP governor poll 23%. It still shows Hilton and Chad Bianco in second and third. Tom Steyer pulling up behind them and Katie Porter. It's interesting to me because this shocked me. I can't imagine what he was pulling at before. It was not great prior to this poll coming out. And I'm hard
So who
pressed
did
to
they
think.
poll? Is it like their readers or is this somebody else's poll that they're reporting on?
So this was it says about this poll, most public polling uses self-reported likely voter screen. Respondents are asked whether they plan to vote, and those who say yes are included. The IVP survey takes a different approach. Every respondent was drawn directly from the L2 California voter file and required to have actually voted in the last three of the last four major statewide elections, including at least one primary and one general. No one is included based on stated intent alone. So those are called, what do they call those? Like, there's a term for those kind of voters. They're like highly engaged voters or something. Like there's a political term that campaigns look at when they look at people who keep voting in elections. Those are like the highly engaged voters. Um, so they usually pull those people. The distinction matters most in primary, where turnout is lower and more habitual than in general election. Self-reported screens tend to oversample people who think they will vote but historically do not, which can skew results. The IVP model is anchored entirely in a verified past behavior. The
Okay.
survey also asks voter for a second choice alongside their first, which most polls do not. This design decision made it possible to report meaningfully on Betty Yee's voters are headed the same day she exited the race. So there you go.
All right.
Among 3,404 screened and verified eligible voters, it just goes on to talk
That was
more about it.
really interesting that as I asked the question, you had the answer readily available. That's
So, how many people did they poll? Yeah,
well,
3,404.
almost like
Um,
we planned that. Yeah,
the
that's a good sample size.
Yeah, that's a substantial sample size. For those who don't know, polls are I think that's a good amount of people. The weighted electorate composition is 47.7% Democrat, 30.2% Republican, and 22.1% Independent. So this gives you an idea of how many people they polled 1,232, 1,000 women. So basically, it was the same across three.
Okay.
Um, so it wasn't like it was skewed one way or the other, but it's interesting. It's definitely interesting because I did not expect Xavier Becerra to launch into first. And this is the only poll we've seen. And then on the heels of this, there was other news that came out, and that is that the Democratic Party, as Betty Yee referred to, they released another poll because what they've been trying to do is basically say, get the heck out of the race. You guys are losers. Go away. So Rusty Hicks, the head of the California Democratic Party, has been putting out these polls to kind of show there's lagging candidates like a Betty Yee, not to bash on Betty Yee, poor boring Betty, but it just goes to show they're trying to show like, hey, like you guys don't have a path, like we're losing, and this is coming from California Democrats. I don't know if they're skewing these on purpose, but latest California Democratic survey, GOP Steve Hilton and Chad Bianco still in the lead. and Becerra still gains ground. So, where does it show the poll
Did
results?
he do something that like, did he say something? Did something magical happen that people were like, "Oh, oh, him. He's still here." Like,
I
what changed?
I don't know. That's we could postulate on it.
'Cause even in our roundtable when you suggested that the DNC was trying to push Swalwell out, and I
Mhm.
asked you, you know, "Who do you think they want in?" Not a single one of us even brought up his name.
No, he was pulling so far behind. I was like, I didn't even think about
Just
that. So it shows that yeah, Hilton and Bianco are still ahead. Hilton has 16%, Bianco has 14, compared to Hilton gained 2%. Katie Porter has 10%. San Jose Mayor Matt Mahan has 5. Betty Yee, who dropped out, was pulling around 1%. So there you go. And still in the lead is undecided at 18%.
Okay.
So they are undecided. People are not really crazy about really anybody at this point. Um, it's so a lot of this is
See, they want that
incredible.
inspiring person. They want the gimmicks, they want the tricks.
They want the gimmicks. They want the person who's going to be as loud as possible. And it's still anybody's race. We have a debate tomorrow night. I believe it's the usual cast of characters. You got the two Republicans are going to be there, Hilton and Bianco, Katie Porter, Tom Steyer, Matt Mahan, and Xavier Becerra. I think those are the people who are going to be at the debate tomorrow night. Everyone else didn't qualify because they didn't pull high enough.
Mm.
Um, so it's still really anybody's race. And as of right now, if Democrats are putting out that Republicans are still in the lead, Democrats really haven't coalesced, I'd be interested to see.
What if they're
Not that it make
lying? What if Republicans are not in the lead? No, I'm like,
yeah.
I'm serious. What if they're not and they're doing this because they're trying to make the race smaller with the Democrats to ensure that we get 2 Democrats to the
Mhm.
general?
This was another quote from Betty Yee that I had in my notes. She said, "Maybe I just need to bring a folding stool and throw it off the stage just to get some attention." Poor boring Betty. Um,
I don't like I know she called herself that, but I don't like that. That's just sad.
boring Betty. So it's really anybody's race to give everyone the update. It's not decided yet. Still a possibility with two Republicans going on. I think that scares the crap out of a lot of Democrats. Um, Somebody asked if we can talk about the Stop Nick Shirley bill the Dems in Sacramento are pushing. Funny, I just released a video over on California Underground News breaking down why it's wholly unconstitutional. So if you want to go check that out, um, I mean, I can give you my quick thoughts. It's wholly unconstitutional because it violates the First Amendment. I don't want to bore you guys to death with the legal analysis. You can go check out the video. It's over on California Underground News. Literally just went live about an hour and a half ago. So if you're tuning in, make sure you go check that out. My opinion, it's wholly, as an
But
attorney,
after the show, if you're here, stay with us.
yeah, wait till after the show, then go check it out. We appreciate you staying here. But
Yeah,
yeah,
but also subscribe to that channel.
and subscribe to that channel because it's doing pretty well. And we got a lot of stuff coming out. So yeah, that's my opinion. Stop Nick Shirley. Complete First Amendment violation should be struck down in court. So Camille, where do you think we are right now? Has anything substantially changed since Eric Swalwell dropped out? Do you think I can't
Hmm.
imagine these like hanger-ons? That's not even a word. Hanger-ons? These people who are hanging on, like Tony Thurman and stuff like that. Even if they drop out, I'm not sure that makes a big difference, right? Like there's still what you're getting. Betty E's 1% is splitting up, or Tony Thurman's
Yeah, because
4%.
I think the 4 that are gonna be in the debate tomorrow, I don't see them dropping out
Mm-mm.
because they are kinda neck and neck in the polls. I mean, especially with, Becerra actually polling now, whereas he wasn't. Um, they've kind of been doing this thing where it's like Katie Porter's leading, no, Steyer's leading, no. Well, now we've got Becerra. Who's the 4th one? You just named him, and I
Tom Steyer,
told you
Katie
I was
Porter, Matt
dealing
Mahan.
Oh, so he actually qualified?
I
Okay.
guess based on
So
funding.
he I think he might end up dropping out.
Mm,
And, he's young, and I think his wife will be like, "Honey, you next year, or not next year, next term or 2 terms after that, depending on obviously who wins." And, I think she might encourage him, "Just wait. You can do this in a few years." And, it is not that I've ever run, but it takes up your life and it is very expensive. It's exhausting. It's a lot. And,
mhm.
he can do he can still be mayor. He can, run for assembly or something, state senate. Like he's got options. And so
Yeah.
I guess if tomorrow night's debate doesn't really change the poll numbers, then I feel like he would drop out. And he was getting, you said 5%?
According to the latest poll, it's like 5%. That's the California Democratic poll. Yeah.
So I bet those numbers will go to Steyer and Bassaria, because I don't see Katie Porter um, making it. I just don't. People don't really like her anymore. They don't resonate with
Mm,
her. And I I hesitate to say this out loud, but as progressive as the left likes to think they are, I don't think they actually want a woman governor. I don't.
mm.
And so I
Yeah.
think that the with Mahan possibly dropping out, I think that those votes will most likely go to a male, and obviously a Democrat male. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. But Sarah, of all people, is again when this stuff like this happens, I'll go get a pulse of the people by going over to Reddit to get an idea of where far leftists are.
The official town
Um,
square.
yeah, yeah, the unofficial town square, and a lot of people are excited about Becerra because they call him a corporatist Democrat who's going to be just like Newsom, and I could agree with that. I mean, he was, he's a Biden guy. He was in that camp of like, the Clintons and the Bidens. Those are all kind of corporatist machine Democrats. And it's odd that California doesn't have as many far left progressives as we're led to believe. Um,
Mhm.
to your point, because if we're such a incredibly progressive state, that is, and I say progressive, I mean they call themselves progressive. I think a lot of today's progressives are really regressive, but that's a whole different topic. Um, it we should be rallying, California should be rallying around Katie Porter. She's espouses herself as far left, progressive.
Single
She's a
mom,
woman, single
she's
mom,
female.
like so she should be cleaning up no problem. But the fact that she hasn't really got a good foothold, probably because she yells at her employees, that probably doesn't help. Um, it is interesting, and the fact that the people who are gaining support from this are a machine corporatist Democrat in Xavier Becerra. Someone brought up in the chat, wasn't he part of the vaccine mandate? Yeah, he was a big part of the vaccine mandate. There was something else he did. Someone called him out for the fact that he said, as Attorney General, he called out the Secretary of Health and Human Services for not lowering drug prices. And then he became the Secretary of Health and Human Services and didn't do the thing he criticized the last secretary for doing. Um, so I don't think he had a really great record during that time. And then you have Tom Steyer, who's a billionaire, old white guy
Yeah,
billionaire.
this one confuses me
Mhm.
because Trump is a white billionaire. We don't like Trump. We don't like these billionaires. We don't like these white male billionaires. We don't like, but when I say we, I'm obviously being sarcastic because I'm talking about the far left who, these are the things that they don't like. They don't want the billionaires in charge. They don't want, these people who are unrelatable and don't understand our daily, choosing if we're going to pay the electric bill or buy the milk situation. And that is Tom Steyer. He's literally a corporate billionaire who, I know he's donated tons of his money and like has actually put money and actions behind his words. I know he has done a lot of that, but he is that white male billionaire that we all are supposed to hate.
Mhm.
I know I'm kind of
'Cause I'm
contradicting myself because it's like, well, but then I just said that it doesn't seem like they want the female governor. So like, I think they're confused. I'm confused
the
because they're confused. This is why it's so
yeah,
confusing, guys.
I'm trying to yeah, it's interesting because 'cause we're trying to read the tea leaves of who are these people supporting? It doesn't really make sense to us.
They
It's
don't
I
know.
guess
They don't know who they're supporting, and I think
I
that's
guess
clear that
yeah.
it's almost like they're just like, "You know what? Let's try this one this time." And next poll, let's try this one. And so that's why it's like gone from, of course, Swalwell's gone now, but Steyer was leading. And
Mhm,
then, and even at the DNC, as we just discussed, Betty Yee was actually in the top three of, votes for endorsements, and now she's gone. And so it does feel like they're just kind of like, okay, we're just going to throw this name on the wall this week and see what happens. And then the California Teachers Union has, or association, they've put their money now behind Steyer. They were very quick to Swalwell's out. Let's go with Steyer. So I think I mentioned last week, don't go with who they're endorsing because they obviously have a really bad uh, judgment. So
mhm.
they have no discernment. You don't want to go with Steyer. Um,
Yeah,
I don't think there's any dirt on Steyer. Is there?
not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. They could always dig some up. All right, let's move on to the next story because we still got two other stories to
Okay.
cover. This story is out of LA. Uh, I don't know if you know this, but LA has solved homelessness to the point where they can start cutting funding. So, um, looks like LA's
Round
knocked
of
it out of the
applause.
park. Yeah, round of applause, snaps for LA because they figured it out and they can start cutting funding. They can cut
They should
back on
have
the
to
homeless
do
funding.
some.
Yeah, they can thank Newsom. They can thank all the billions we've given them. But here's this story. We'll watch this short news story and then we'll talk about it real quick.
Happening tonight, the annual homeless count is underway across Los Angeles
Yeah.
as LASA faces major budget cuts. Questions about whether the numbers match reality. Fox 11's Matthew Seedorf live near Skid Row tonight with more on what you saw there, Matthew.
Well, Christine, we just got back from Skid Row, and I can't even guess how many homeless people we counted just ourselves tonight. But Mike will show you some of the things that they're counting. RVs like this, a common sight across LA, is tonight. The count is on. The massive annual count underway across LA. Volunteers with LASA hitting the streets, counting everyone they see, tents and RVs.
When proven solutions lose funding, homelessness doesn't stay flat. It may rise.
That warning.
Just a point of if you're not listening, if you're not watching, the lady speaking is the interim CEO of the Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority, LAHSA. If you've been following this show, LAHSA is a wholly corrupt organization who did nothing to solve homelessness. So take her words with a grain of salt.
That warning from LASA's interim CEO as the agency faces $300 million in budget cuts after an audit revealed a lack of transparency in their spending. After last year's audit, how do you respond to people that maybe feel like those budget cuts are justified?
Right. Well, we have an interim internal audit committee now at LASA. We are really trying to be good stewards of people's money.
Here on Skid Row, this is just one of the encampments that we're seeing on a block that is full. Excuse me, guys. Can we talk to you for 30 seconds? One man speaking with us from inside a tent to hide his identity. How many people are in this tent?
About five of us in this one area.
They say homelessness is down.
Homeless is up.
LASA reports a decrease in homelessness the last 2 years in a row. But every person we meet on Skid Row says that doesn't match their reality.
I feel like it's more homeless people than it was before.
You feel like the city is giving you enough resources for help?
No. People that are not using the funds the way it's supposed to be used to get them out. We need good people with good consciousness.
We are doing more here to hold the system accountable, but we can't do it if you pull your dollars away.
City Council.
Nithya Raman. Again, if you're listening on audio, that was Nithya Raman, who's also running for Los Angeles mayor. She was, I guess you can call her the Mamdani of Los Angeles.
City Council member Nithya Raman and LASA pushing for more funds amidst the cuts.
No, it ain't down.
While LA's homeless are counted to see where in the city needs the most help. How do you think we get this fixed?
Help the community, help the people.
And interesting, Mayor Bass was listed. She was supposed to be here as a speaker tonight. We wanted to ask her some questions about homelessness across LA, but she didn't show up. Reporting downtown, Matthew Seedorf, Fox 11 News.
Surprising. Karen Bass didn't show up. So what they're discussing is the proposed 2026-27 budget for Los Angeles is $843 million for total homelessness. So almost $1 billion just in Los Angeles alone. And what they've cut is the street outreach, which are the people who go out and actually do the outreach to homelessness or to homeless who are trying to get off the streets to get services. And they cut that from 54 million to 26 million, which is a 52% reduction, which begs the question of you're spending almost $1 billion, yet for some reason you're cutting the people who are going out to try and find homeless to help. That doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me because you're spending a lot of money. So how are you getting the money to the people and letting people know there are services? I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I don't know. I'm this snarky. I'm a snarky person, as you guys know, and nobody there knows what they're doing. Does anybody care? I don't know. We all know that this has been such a corrupt thing, whereas, what was it? The former CEO was getting all kinds of money to her, like kickbacks to her husband's nonprofit or something. And so it's just like they're cutting money. Sorry, I'm rambling again. Yeah, what you said, if you don't have people doing the outreach, how do they know where the money's supposed to go to help the people that the money's for? So what a conundrum. It's very interesting.
It's almost like you have this huge budget, but you're cutting the people who are actually trying to connect the services and the money to the people who need it.
Right. Which, we've all kind of been saying you cut the middle person because that's why the funding is so expensive because, it's $10, but by the time it gets to the person who needs it, it's $1.50 kind of situation. But you do need somebody's to be in there you can't just have anybody coming up and saying, I'm homeless, give me money. It's not going to work that way, obviously. It needs to be restructured for sure. There needs to be major reform within how the funding is handed out, how they figure out who needs it, exactly where it goes. Like the man, his answer was, when the news reporter asked him, what do you think? And he's like, we need to help the community. Yes. Okay. We all agree with that. But what does that actually look like?
Mm-hmm.
When you say help the community, let's give specifics. What does the community literally need? And so cutting those people, that will be harder to assess that need, but it does need to be, they need to assess what really needs to be done. They need people to do that. They need to assess the actual needs. Is it specific job training? Is it education? Is it mental health? Is it, addiction? Getting them off their addictions? Is it simply getting them into a clean home for a decent amount of time? Like what everyone's going to be different, but assess the specific needs. You can't just say the community needs help and then you can't just go throw money at it and expect results. So they do need to reform and hire competent people who can really figure out exactly what those needs are and then formulate a plan. And then I think that they could actually cut the budget by a ton because they can allocate specifically what they need as opposed to,
Let's just throw money at the problem.
Yeah.
Which is what they've been doing for a long time.
Right.
Just for kind of context, I'm sure anybody's familiar with these numbers, but they're worth repeating. California homelessness spending peak was $6.8 billion between 22 and 23. It's been cut all the way down to $2.5 billion by 2024 and 2025.
This is for California, you're saying?
I'm giving you statewide numbers of how much we've spent over the 5 years, 2019 and 24. California spent $24 billion in homeless. We're all very familiar with that number. And homeless population over the same period grew by 30,000, now over 181,000. The math is approximately $160,000 spent per homeless person. Yet population somehow went up, and the state auditor found that 9.4 billion across 3 programs couldn't even be evaluated. No data, no outcomes, nothing tracked. So there we have it. We spent a ton of money, $24 billion. Homelessness went up 30,000 people, and 9.4 billion, they couldn't even figure out where most of it went. Somebody in the chat said no accountability to where the money goes. No, not at all. And when people like the former Valencia Adams Kellum, who was the former CEO, I guess now LASA is what they call it. I didn't even know. Here I am stumbling over this whole time I've been stumbling over LAHSA, and it's just called LASA. She was caught giving about $2 million to her husband's nonprofit that also helped homelessness. Allegedly. All of these people are trying to help homelessness. I mean, we have story after story. Alexander Sufer was a story that broke a couple months ago, who had stolen millions of dollars and was giving out like instant ramen and like microwave meals. And he lived like in Brentwood in a $5 million home. Like there is no accountability. I mean, outside the accountability of like Bill Asaley, who thankfully is the U.S. attorney up there in the Central District. I can't even imagine if it wasn't for Bill Asaley, I'm not sure a lot of these people would even be held accountable. Like, I don't know if people in Los Angeles would be getting arrested for this or under investigation. And then there was issues of developers who were buying properties because they got an inside track of, hey, we're going to buy this property for rebuilding for homelessness. So you buy it for 12 million and then we'll buy it from you for 24 million. So there is no accountability. And if you want to know where the money went, it went to a lot of people and made a lot of people rich.
I did see that they were cutting employees. I forget if it's LASA. We can say that now. Okay. LASA or some other. I'm sorry, I should have had this handy, but like they were actually cutting 284 employees as part of cutting some of this funding.
Well, there was talk about the county taking over for LASA. Like they said, based on the whole corruption, everything they were talking about taking it. And they're still under.
The county is so corrupt. I mean, there was the woman that didn't want to run for her role. And so she somehow got a $2 million settlement because God forbid that they take away her job and make it an elected position. And she was so distraught. She like got $2 million from them. That was the county.
Yes. Yeah. That was the county CEO.
That's the county. Okay.
That was a good story because she usually CEOs for like county supervisors or like the county are, I guess, nominated and selected by the county officials who you elect. But now they were like, no, we want you to actually be elected by the people. And she was so distraught that she had to run for election. She was like, this is horrible. They're taking my job away. And somehow she won $2 million, a $2 million settlement.
Taxpayer dollars.
Yeah, taxpayer dollars. Someone said, I'm so black-pilled politically over the fraud. I don't blame you. The fraud is, I think the fraud is probably one of the biggest black pills we've seen in the past year or so. I
wasn't laughing at that person that said that. I'm sorry. Just to clarify. It's astounding.
It's a true statement. I think the fraud that has been exposed, like Nick Shirley did in Minnesota and here in California, and just the amount of fraud we see, and the fact that Doge barely even chipped the tip of the iceberg in the federal government at how much fraud there was going on. I think that really does, unfortunately, black pill a lot of people and a lot of citizens in California and America nationwide, because when you look at tax day, and if you had to pay taxes just last week, like we did, you look at it and go, what the hell am I spending money for? I mean, where are all these taxes going? They're clearly not going to what they're supposed to. They're going overseas. They're going to fraud. They're going to waste. They're going to military industrial complex. It's like, I mean, that's why people get black-pilled. Yeah, we don't want to go down that road. We're not going to get started on that. That's not the point of this show.
That's a special After Dark episode.
That should be a special After Dark episode. That should be a California Underground and Cocktails After Dark episode. So yeah, I guess I'm not sure what they were doing or what they're planning on doing here. Homelessness is far from solved in Los Angeles, and the fact that they're cutting street outreach, the people who are supposed to go and get the homeless and provide services.
That's so sketchy. Again, I agree there needs to be reform, but I don't think that they're actually reforming. It just feels like, let's get rid of these people over here so we can throw more funding at these employees over here kind of situation. I don't know. It seems sketchy.
Very sketchy. And it makes you wonder how much more fraud is happening if they're holding on. It's almost like they know they're going to hold on to this money and dole it out where they want to without the street outreach. It's almost like we're just going to hold on to this and figure it out ourselves. We don't need the street outreach. So yeah, whatever LA's up to, I'm sure this might be one of those instances. Remember at the beginning of the episode where we called this out and said, why are they holding on to this money and not hiring more street outreach people? We may be 3 or 4 months from now find another story about what's going on with Los Angeles.
We really need to do a deep dive into this. We kind of, it's been a while now. You and I had kind of talked about this. So we were looking, just like sort of just looking at the surface of a few things, but it turned out that because they have safe parking, I don't know if this is specifically LA or just lots of areas, but one of the things that they do is safe parking for people that live in their cars. There's, I guess, parking spots that are kind of considered safe. I think they have security and stuff, but we found out that they were paying, gosh, what was it, $100, $200 a night, I guess, for the security and securing this spot and whatnot for people to use. And they were, which is almost as much as a hotel room. And they were paying, okay, I'm just going to make up numbers, but it was something like 100 of those a night, but only 8 of them were being used. It was something like that. It was something really ridiculous. And don't quote me on those exact numbers, but it was something very ridiculous. And so we're like, okay, so all these different groups are paying $1,000 like total a night over several nights. So several $1,000s a month, only to have, less than 100 of these spots even used over the course of that month. And so it was just like, again, where is this money really going? This is what's happening. It's just bizarre.
There's someone in the chat, and I've been looking at his username, and I thought it was a Sopranos reference until the 90s kid in me realized it's not a Sopranos reference. It's Pauly Short Cuts, and it's Pauly Short from, right? Isn't that? He was a comedian, Pauly Short? Pauly Shore.
I know the name, but
I thought it was a Sopranos reference. Just to give you guys that's why we do this show live. I'm looking at I'm looking at the chat. Pauly Short Cuts. Let us know what reference is. Finally, I want to touch on this math before we get into the Newsom story. The cost of preventing homelessness based on the California state auditor, before they become homeless, the cost is about $5,000 per person. Basically, the idea is here's some financial assistance before you get evicted, before you're on the street. Like, we can provide that to kind of bridge you to keep you moving and keep you in a house. That's the cost before. The cost once someone becomes homeless goes up to $50,000. So that's shelter, services, and medical. So that's the amount it costs. And I think to your point about how we have to reform our approach to homelessness, there's a lot we need to reform, but it does seem like we're always paying for the end result and not stopping it before it starts. We're always paying for the facilities or the affordable housing or whatever down the line after they're homeless, and not the 5,000 part where we can say, hey, here's some funding so that we can just keep you in a house before you become homeless.
That's the government for you, though.
That's the government for you. Yeah, I mean, it's easier to pull on the heartstrings once you're homeless, because if you pay $5,000 and someone doesn't become homeless, you can't pull on the heartstrings then. So, all right, next story, final story, our title story for the night. Gavin Newsom.
We just couldn't go without talking about him. He's still in office.
We only have so many months left of old Gavin Newsom, so we better enjoy the content he's going to provide us. He is a bestseller, so we should all be very proud of Gavin. He wrote a book.
Another round of applause.
Another round of applause for Gavin Newsom. Somehow a guy who was dyslexic wrote a book. Maybe he dictated it. I don't know, but whatever. It was called Young Man in a Hurry.
ChatGPT.
You know what? At this point, AI is going to replace a lot of writers, so could have helped him. So he wrote this book, Young Man in a Hurry, and it got up to the New York Times bestseller list, which, if you don't know and you don't follow this a lot, this is a hallmark move by politicians to prep a presidential run. And if you look at basically every presidential candidate who ran in the past, gosh, I don't know, 10, let's say 20 years, back to 2000. That's almost 20, 26 years. Gosh, time flies. I still think the 90s are 10 years ago. I still think the 90s are 10 years ago. They're not.
They were.
I refuse to think that they're more than 10 years ago. You can go back and look at all the politicians who ran for president. They all released a book prior. You have Obama had Hope We Can Believe In or something like that. Was that his book or something?
I don't know any other books.
Dreams of My Father. So, I don't know. He wrote a couple books. Hillary Clinton was like, gosh, I remember it was like My World or something, or My Life, something. Hillary Clinton wrote a book. Now Gavin Newsom has written a book.
Kamala Harris wrote a book.
Kamala Harris wrote a book after she lost the election. She didn't have time before then. She wasn't ready to write her book before, or have ChatGPT write her book before she ran for 100 days. Wasn't that called 100 days or something?
Wasn't it like 51 days? No, I'm just kidding.
It feels, yeah. So this is common. This is what happens is they write a book. It kind of promotes their national image, gets people emotionally connected to them. So in November, the Campaign for Democracy Committee, that's his super PAC, or his PAC that he uses. It's the PAC he used to tour around the nation and go into red states and lecture them about racism, launched a book campaign asking donors to contribute any amount to the PAC to receive the memoir when it was released on February 24th. Newsom spokesperson Nathan Click told the New York Times that the PAC bought 67,000 copies, representing a substantial portion of the 97,400 total sold.
So like 2/3.
Yeah, it's good math. We were thrilled with the response, Click told the New York Times. Our goal was to deepen the relationship between him and the millions of folks who have already expressed support for Gavin Newsom's, or Governor Newsom's, work. The PAC made 2 payments totaling over $1.5 million to Porchlight Book Company, according to FEC filing. This is all stuff that they have to disclose as a PAC. Quote, supporters were invited to give whatever amount they could afford and still receive a copy of the book. The goal was participation and engagement, not fundraising. The campaign's list provided an opportunity for supporters to buy the book through a vendor consistently used by other authors. Each book was sold and sent through the vendor, similar to buying from Amazon or Barnes & Noble. In total, more than 67,000 individual sales were made through the campaign's offer. So he was able to get on the New York Times bestseller list because his PAC bought 2/3 of the book. So he may say, I want to see if I can see it in this article. I don't know if they bring it up in this article, but there's something interesting about how the New York Times put a little symbol next to his book. It's a dagger, which indicates to readers that this book was probably bought in a not only individual sales, but it was also bulk sales. So the New York Times was wise to this, and they actually called it out and said, hey, this wasn't all individual sales. This was bulk sales. So for someone who's now going to claim that he's a New York Times best-selling author, his own PAC ended up buying 2/3 of the books that actually got him to be a New York Times bestseller.
So would you say that Newsom was in a hurry to become a New York Times bestselling author?
Yes, I would say he was definitely in a hurry to become a New York Times bestselling author. So much so that he was like, we'll just use our PAC. And he's sitting on an enormous war chest. And because I think he took the money from the recall that he raised. Because remember, when a recall, if you're a governor defending yourself against a recall, you can raise an unlimited amount of money.
And I think you talked so much about how that's just going to be in his future presidential run.
Again,
you did.
Folks, we don't want to pat ourselves on the back. We want to be as humble as possible. But if you tune in long enough to this show, you'll start connecting the dots like we do. Yeah, I said that before. I said, look, this is the problem with this is he can raise as much money as he wants to defend against a recall, and he still had like $200 million left after the recall. And then he opened this campaign for democracy, took all that money, put it in campaign for democracy, which will now likely be the war chest he uses for his presidential campaign. It'll be renamed something like Gavin Newsom for president. So he's sitting on a ton of money. So $1.5 million to him and his PAC is literally nothing. And the one thing I will say about book sales with politicians, which is interesting, I think book sales, along with art sales, are some of the last legal forms of money laundering in the world.
Interesting.
Politicians routinely write books and somehow become big New York Times bestsellers. And a lot of the times it's because of things like this. The PAC, the reason this got exposed is because the PAC got someone found out in the FEC filing, they got caught doing this. But a lot of times publishers will buy a crap ton of the books and make it look like they sold a bunch of copies. Then they'll hand them out or do whatever the heck they want with them. And in a way, it's a form of kind of money laundering because you write a book, someone pays for that book and they buy a crap ton of copies, and the person on the other end, the author, the politician, ends up making a lot of money. And it's a direct way to give them money. So along with art sales, I think book sales for politicians is basically legal forms of money laundering.
I'm gonna write a book and
funny
paint
enough.
something.
We have a little news about that coming up in a couple minutes. So any thoughts about Gavin Newsom buying his bestseller?
It's not surprising.
It's not surprising.
It's not surprising. You
I
have
mean,
money,
it's
you have
almost like
connections. Why not? Why not make yourself a? Why not add that to your resume?
I mean, it's almost like, is there anything genuine about Gavin Newsom, or
No,
is he just completely
no.
created
There's
a lie?
literally. It's just like, oh, I promised y'all I was going to redo the California 911 system, and I failed and spent millions of dollars on that of your money, and we're not even going to try again. But anyway, here's my book.
Some of the comments are should be titled "Young Man with Extremely Rich Friends, Newsom and the Gettys." Someone else said, to be honest, it's not hard to be a New York Times bestseller. There are 100 categories and you can claim to be a New York Times bestseller. True. Yeah, a lot of people do.
I was actually surprised at, not that 97,000 copies isn't a lot, but I was surprised that the number was so low to become a New York Times bestselling author. Like I would have thought it would have been like 500,000. Tells you what I know. I read books, but I don't know about selling them. So when you read that, okay, this is gonna sound almost like crass because I really don't know, but I literally thought I could probably write a book and sell 100,000 copies. No, I probably can't. But it did make me go, wait, that's way easier than what I thought to become a New York Times bestselling author. So I was surprised.
Excuse me. Yeah, I was surprised too. I guess it's to the Iceman's point in the chat. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of categories. You can literally finagle your way into a certain category and sell a bunch of books, and you're the best-selling author in that category. Nancy's Napa Nepo baby. Pauly Shortcuts coming through with the great comment.
Did he answer your question about his username? Also unrelated, my left eye has been twitching. So if I look crazy, I'm sorry. My eye has been twitching this entire episode. I have no idea what's going on. Tired.
It's not talking about Gavin Newsom inauthentically buying his own book.
It's at this point, it just makes my eye twitch. That's how bad it is.
Couple more things about this, and then we'll wrap up the show. And if you guys have any thoughts in the chat or questions in the chat, we'll be happy to take them. So he's saying his team didn't collect any royalties on the PAC purchase copy specifically, but the advance size and whether the guaranteed bulk buy was factored into the publisher's offer remains undisclosed. Also worth noting is that the PAC Campaign for Democracy, their whole stated mission is to confront and defeat un-American authoritarianism.
I'm going to joke. Excuse me, what?
Their mission, I'll repeat it, is to confront and defeat un-American authoritarianism. Yet its biggest Q1 expenditure was buying Newsom's own memoir.
Just, dude, they know that he is the definition, right? Like, you look up authoritarianism in the dictionary. Do you guys know what those are? Dictionary, they're books. They're probably best-selling books. And like, you just flip a few pages in the A section, and like, there's literally Gavin Newsom. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, authoritarianism.
Defeated.
I guess he skipped over the whole COVID part where he didn't talk about how he was an authoritarian
over his entire political career.
An authoritarian. And I just want to preface, this is all technically legal. Technically, right. Yes. We're not alleging this was a crime. This is one of those weird loopholes with PACs and FEC filings and how you can do this. Critics, someone by the name of Buzz Patterson said, donor money flows to the publisher. Publisher already paid Newsom, right? Because sometimes when you write a book, they will give you a front, like they will front you money because they're like, hey, we know this book's going to do pretty well, so we're going to front you money so we can have the book. So they already paid Gavin Newsom for a certain amount of copies. So then the PAC purchased the books, kind of reimbursing the publisher. So Newsom's likely already made a ton of money off of this.
So his PAC purchased 67,000 books of the 97,000 sales. So the publisher bought 30,000 books. So nobody actually bought this book. And I know that you didn't say that the publisher bought 30,000. I'm just insinuating that that's what happened.
Yeah, organically, only 30,000 copies have been sold.
No,
but
the publisher you just said bought, right?
That's what this critic is saying, is that a lot of times publishers will buy books and front them for you. Like they will hold, I guess what they're saying is they pay you up front for a certain amount of copies. So they'll say like, oh, we're expecting you're going to sell 100,000 copies. So we'll pay you for 100,000 copies.
Then what I said was irrelevant.
Yeah. So they're just kind of recouping, I guess, because the organic sales were so bad. I don't know anyone who's actually.
So he paid them back. The publisher.
In a way, yes. In a way, Gavin Newsom paid his publisher back for fronting him the money, and donors who thought they were donating to his campaign PAC, his campaign for democracy, to fight authoritarianism and to fight Trump and all that. Instead, they were literally buying his book.
Okay.
So,
all right. I'm going with that they just like, they're like, here's payment for 50,000 copies. And then he was like, all right, and I'm going to buy 67,000 copies. So here's your money back.
So is that you guys see someone put Michelle Obama's book at Barnes & Noble as a troll and every page was blank? At this point, like that's literally what most of these books are. You can fill them with whatever people.
Michelle Obama's actually kind of entertaining. Don't hate me. Don't hate me. Somehow she's on my TikTok and she's kind of funny. I didn't buy her book. Did
now the show's gonna get boycotted because you say
I know.
Michelle.
I know. Don't cancel me.
Someone asked, have you seen any of Newsom's wife's stupid videos?
Oh, I try not to.
Yeah, I've been trying to do as many reaction shorts as possible, but I don't want to beat a dead horse in the sense of like she keeps saying stupid things. I've done a couple shorts. If you follow on Instagram, I've done a couple shorts kind of commenting.
Someone should tell them. I mean, this is so mean, but someone should tell them she is not a good look. It's better for her to stay in the background for now. Like, I know she's trying to like be her own person because she's going to be, oh, I'm the first partner, or I'm going to be the first partner. So she's trying to like come into her own now. I get that that's what's going on, but she says the dumbest things and she looks dumb and it is a bad look, and she just needs to sit back for now because she needs, I don't know, she needs some serious training or something before she starts doing this because it's bad. It's just, but then again, maybe I want that because I don't want Newsom to be president. And so maybe we want her to look really bad to reflect on him.
We can only hope. We can only hope Jennifer Newsom saves America by.
Maybe she could write a book.
She'll write a book, and then Gavin Newsom's PAC will buy it and give it out to people, and the cycle of grifting continues. All right. last thing of the night, speaking of books, I figure this is a good time. We were chatting before the show. This is probably a good time to reveal the news and give you a little teaser. I'm actually writing a book that is almost finished about California history and California politics, sort of a long look at where we've come, where we've been when California was the gold rush and beginning of the 20th century, and how California became the envy of the world and the envy of the country, and where we've gone wrong. Um, that's going to be released, kind of been going back and forth whether it should be June, closer to the gubernatorial election. It's probably gonna be closer to the gubernatorial election, August and September. So I'm in the final stages of finishing it, putting the finishing touches on it. Then we have to go through edits, formatting, all of that stuff. But that's, yeah, that's the big news, is that I am writing a book. I do not have a PAC that can spend $1.5 million on buying the book, but hopefully we don't need a PAC, and hopefully it does really well on its own. So we'll be dropping more information about that as well, as we go on. So we'll keep you updated on when the book is going to be dropped.
I told Phil he had to give me an advanced copy to read, so I can critique it.
Yep.
And I also told him to do a drum roll when he announced this, and he did not.
I forgot to do a drum roll. I'm sorry.
No, but okay. So anyway, that's very exciting news. I know you've been holding on to that for a while, and it's been time consuming for you because you obviously do your full research, and you are an amateur historian. So this will be very exciting. You're obviously very passionate about this state and what it was and what it's becoming and where it's going and what you hope it to be. So this will be really interesting.
Yeah.
So go tell all your friends, everybody.
Yeah, go tell your friends. Somebody said, how many are you going to buy? Hopefully I don't have to buy any. Hopefully everybody
but his wife
gets a copy.
Budget.
Just kidding. I don't like I said, I don't have 1.5 to buy my own book.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Where do you plan to sell the book?
We are in the process of going to different publishers. So we're in the process right now of promoting it to different publishers. If that doesn't work and they don't bite, then we are prepared to self-publish on Amazon.
Okay.
You can do an ebook on Amazon, so like Kindle version. You can also set it up so it's a paperback. So if you like paperback, you don't like ebooks, there'll be a paperback version available as well. So yeah, we'll see. That's why we're kind of.
Sorry, go ahead. I keep interrupting. This is your news. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. You had a question.
Well, yeah, I'm going to go ahead then. Would you do a live in-person book signing?
Sure. Hopefully people show up.
I mean, we could maybe not the book is obviously not mine. This is 100% you, but we could, if people are interested, do like a live podcast kind of thing and have a book signing. But also it doesn't have to do anything with me or the podcast. It could just be your own thing. Cause I'm sorry, I'm not trying to make it about me. That sounded really disgusting. I didn't mean it to come out like that. I just.
Yeah. Why not? I think any ideas we have, if live book signing or whatever. Someone says, I love reading. Count me in for one sale. There we go. We got one sale already. New York Times, like the Iceman said in the comments, New York Times, here we come. It's happening. Maybe I can actually overtake Gavin Newsom. Now, wouldn't that be something if you could beat Gavin Newsom writing a book about California and the history of California?
Oh
I'm excited about it. I started it, I feel like over a year ago. I've been spending a lot of time on it, a lot of research. I've learned a lot writing the book. So hopefully, my hope is it's a good synopsis. It's not like a 500-page encyclopedia. It's a good synopsis of where California started in terms of the California dream, how we kind of lost our way over the past several decades. And then, it ends on a good note. It ends on a good note of like where we can go to get back to make this state great again. I'm hopeful it has a good ending. So I learned a lot researching it. There's plenty of times I was researching, I'd come out from writing and go to my wife and be like, "This is really interesting." And I'd be like telling her the whole thing. I'm like, "Oh, I'm writing this chapter on homelessness, and this is a really interesting tidbit." She's like,
Mm,
"Mm-hmm, great, that's really interesting."
it is really
Um,
interesting.
no, my wife is completely supportive. So,
Well, I should hope
um,
so.
yeah, I'm
No,
not
she
trying.
is. His wife is so supportive of everything that he does. He has a very good wife. She's a wonderful person. She's one of the nicest people I've ever known, but she is absolutely just like everything Phil does, she's so supportive of him. So
Yeah, well, behind every great man, what do they say? Is a good woman. So, all right, that's the big news. We'll keep
uh,
you updated on the book.
I want to make a really snarky comment now because I just can't help myself.
Sure.
Because you just did this whole thing about how people will release a book
Mhm.
to kind of get their name out there and get excited for their political campaign. But I know you're not going to you have at least at this time, you have no interest in running for politics, and so I won't make the snarky comment. I will because I was gonna make some dumb comment, but I guess this is a good time because people are gonna have that question. "Oh, are you
Mhm.
gonna run for office?" And,
No.
you're not. You have no plans to run for office of
No,
any
no
kind.
plans off. I mean, if people want to take what's in the book who are interested in running for politics and take ideas from it and run with it, I'd be tickled pink about it. I'd be happy that they took those suggestions. Um, but no, I have no desire to run for politics. I just like doing this podcast and doing the videos and keeping everyone informed. So hopefully that's what the book does as well. Gives you a good deep dive on California history and where we can go. So, all right. With that, thank you everyone for tuning in. We went a little over tonight, but we had that news and we had lots of stuff to cover. We talked a lot about poor old boring Betty. Um, so sayonara to boring Betty.
No, we cannot I know she called herself that, but we cannot call her that.
She branded herself boring Betty, so that's going to be her nickname from now on. So, all right. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. As always, we love all the people who are here live commenting. Make sure if you're listening to this audio later, we always do this live, YouTube, 8 p.m. on Tuesdays, so that you can join us, join the conversation. As you can hear through the audio, we're commenting on the comments. The people who are here, we give them shout outs. So feel free to join us Tuesday night, 8 p.m. And with that, make sure you like, share, subscribe, review, all of that stuff helps with the algorithm, helps more people find us. And the best thing you can do that is 100% free that you can support the show is share it with someone who you think will find it interesting or useful. So with that, we'll see you on the next one. Later.